What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Lokotech live stream. All right, first things first, I just want to get off the ground stating that I want everybody to please be respectful in the chat. Feel free to ask your questions at me if you guys, see that we missed your question. And yeah, huge thank you to Ben and Christian for joining us. I got my man Max Voltage and Geek of All Trades here as well. And we're just going to go over pretty much all the questions that you guys have, right? So I guess first things first, we're just going to dive right into it. Questions for Ben. So are you guys a publicly traded company? We'll start with that.
Yes, correct. We are on the secondary market in Norway it's called the Euronext Growth Exchange. And basically anybody that's an accredited investor and or trades in Norway can purchase shares.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah, that was one of the big questions that people were asking about. Now I guess, let's open this a little heavy with the price of the hash blade, right? I know a lot of people are concerned about why is the price so high, and obviously being in a bear market, the profitability is super low right now, and it's really on everything, GPUs, ASICs, doesn't matter what you're using. But can you guys, I guess, kind of explain the price point as to why you guys chose right around 2000 for the hash blade and so on and so forth?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we chose $2,000 for the hash blade because we thought it was a good price for our product, seeing that we don't really see much competition catching up, seeing the node that we are on. We're on the 12 nanometer LP Plus from Global Foundries, and the nearest competitor to us is already at the 7 nanometer. In addition to that, we're actually going to be good stewards of the hash rate. I mean, we're going to be self-mining between 5 to 10% with the quality control units that come off each batch. And then on top of that, we're going to be limiting production to help maintain profitability for our clients, because we don't want to create a hardware problem, much what we've seen with Bitcoin, because you can't simply buy a miner and actually plug it in and mine on residential power. And that's another thing I like to roll into is, I mean, even the 10 stack at 1750 watts for 10 of the hash blades, your break even for the cost of power is like 65, 67 cents compared to the L7 at about 15, 16 cents. So we see this as a huge benefit. And with all those, aforementioned things, we see it as a perfect price point for our product as well.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess just kind of segue from the price point. Now, when it comes to being into a bull market, is the price of the hash blade ever going to increase, or are you guys going to try to keep it flat across the board? I guess that's kind of what I gathered from you guys when we were down in DC. Is that how it's going to be, just a structure flat-ish?
Yeah, I mean, correct. So as of now, I mean, this first batch that's going out is 2,000 per unit. And we can't really speak on future batches, given that inflation and all the other market dynamics that actually push the pricing. Right, but I mean, if Litecoin went to $1,000 tomorrow, we're still going to be selling the first batch at $2,000. So we don't see the need to fluctuate prices that bad. We know that the market is extremely volatile, and that's just the dynamics that we're going to take into effect when we actually release batch.
I got you. So it's not so much the price of the market, it's the price of the equipment, more or less, it takes to build, said product. That makes sense. Okay. That was one of the major questions a lot of people had. All right. So we have a question in the chat from Ron Watkins. Again, guys, just add me in the chat if you have any questions. How many blades do you need to order for a discount? Do you guys offer any type of discounts on?
We're not offering any discounts as of now. Simple fact is because we're limiting production. Again, once we do a X amount of units, I would probably say, 200, 300,000 units, then we're going to be actively monitoring the hash rate and releasing smaller batches as the network can take it. So again, to help maintain profitability, because we actually see more value coming from the value of Litecoin and Dogecoin going up in value rather than just flooding the market with hash rate. So we want to definitely be a good actor.
Gotcha. Again, Max and Geek of All Trades, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to just jump in. I'm going to be skimming the chat and grabbing whatever I can.
Chuck Danger asked a question kind of a little bit. We were on price. I think in general, what he was asking was, how did you come to the actual price of the unit? Some people are thinking it's too high, thinking it's bull run pricing, but how did you guys come to that?
Well, it's more on just margin. I mean, since we're a publicly traded company, we have to look at the bottom line of not charging too little to where we can't deliver the product, or not charging too much to where we're gouging people. And given the benefits that our hash blades and our ASIC have to offer, this is where we ended up, was the 1999.
So it's based on cost, not really based on the value per se. So okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. What was I gonna just ask? Let me see. So we had the refund policy. That was the next question I wanted to follow that up with. So if people order these right now, how do you guys have some sort of refund policy in case, like, say, I don't know, this batch is taking too long and people want to back out? That's just something that obviously people are worried about. And then, like, if it comes DOA, right, dead on arrival, do you guys also warranty things along those lines?
Correct. Well, I'll take that in two parts. The first is the return policy. I mean, if somebody wants a return, we basically take, say you're a client, you pay via wire. The wire goes automatically into the client account. We actually have two accounts, one for key accounts, one for client accounts, because they're treated differently depending on the order size. The crypto, if you pay in crypto, it automatically exchanges to fiat, because we don't want to take the FX risk when our manufacturing costs to both global, to pick and place, to all the component suppliers is all in US dollar. So that all then transfers over into the client account as well. And what happens is, if you want to return, we will wire you the money after you give us the the wire details, minus the cost of the wire, and that's the only cost that you'll incur.
That's understandable. Yeah, makes sense. You're not going to pay
And
the
then
fees
when
if somebody
it,
wants it back. Yeah.
yeah, and then when it comes to return, I mean, given that we've been in the industry, and Christian has been in the industry more than a lot of people I know, we wanted to get rid of these, long return policies, or, product arriving DOA. I mean, our product is literally a hash blade. So if a hash blade's not working, we're going to have an advanced RMA return policy, to where you can send it back to us. We'll send you a new one, and you'll get it hopefully within, I'd say, 10 days rather than a few months. And that way you can get back to mining quicker, because all we're going to do is we're going to look at the product, make sure that it's, hits the warranty, and you didn't, dump it in water, or, do something nefarious to it.
Right.
And then we're just going to fix it and put it into our self-mining facility.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's actually awesome. That's a huge benefit, because you guys can just use the unit that you're going to RMA. That makes total sense, actually. Right. All right. Well, yeah, that's definitely a smooth process. All right, let's see. So Crypto Frank had a question. He said, if they don't raise the prices, how will you control people from buying them all and easing the price themselves?
Well, I mean, that's another thing. We're wanting to deal with everybody direct. We want to skip the middleman. There are a few people that we are talking to that they want to basically be the purchaser for their hosting facility, which is completely fine. We don't want a middleman, because we don't want to increase the payback period for the end user. What people do with it, I mean, that's up to them. I mean, we are actually only giving warranties to the people that directly purchase it. So if they buy 200-300 units and they sell them out, and they're gonna have to deal with those people if there's any DOAs or any of that stuff, because we won't have their name directly connected to our company.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. All right, so my wife, Miss Pocket,
yeah, which actually brings up, it's quite funny that about the pricing point. If we did sell this for 1,000, people bought it for 1,000, they'd sell it for 2,000. So
right,
that's another thing that took into effect to try to price out the secondary market as well.
Yeah, which makes sense. Totally get that. So my wife, Miss Pocket Change, in the chat said, I know everyone has the question about the actual products, but can Ben and Christian explain their history and how this project started and why their involvement is in it? So yeah, do you want to start?
Awesome. Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you the background. It's actually how I met Christian and Ola, both our co-founders. So, I mean, I sold a company back in the day. Me and Ola were actually going through a investment round with some angels, and that's how we met. Then I met Christian in crypto, because we were all wanting to get into that, and he was the oldest miner that we knew, and we quickly realized, this is back in, what was that, 2017?
Yeah,
Christian, about. And Christian's been at it a lot longer than that, and we realized quite early on that vertical integration is key in this industry. So we started playing around with that, either purchasing power plants or, basically trying to vertically integrate any aspect of the industry. And when we were real big backers of Litecoin, so we figured me and Ola actually funded the simulations and design company that Christian found after he looked through their IP and stuff and talked to them to, see if these guys would be any good. Once the simulation breakthrough happened in 2019, we're like, holy cow, we got something. And it took us about a year to raise the capital. We raised at the time about $13.5 million. And in Norway, that's why we're public, because in Norway, the investors wanted us to go public to have liquidity in the shares, which is completely understandable.
Yeah.
And the only thing bad is all the competition knows, what's good and what's bad that happens with the company. And that's basically how we got into it. So all the ASIC designers and stuff is basically a design house that we found after reviewing a lot of IP and knowledge that the guys had. Because it is quite interesting in this industry. You can have the best ASIC designers in the world, but if they don't know anything about crypto, then they can't really put together a design because they don't know how everything communicates to each other.
Interesting.
Which is quite interesting,
awesome.
Actually.
Yeah, Mr. DJ Mind says Christian's awesome. We actually met him over in DC last week, actually 2 weeks ago, right? So it was very surreal, I guess, meeting you guys and seeing the proof of concept little hash boards that we had, right, with the one chip, one tile just kind of stretched out. So could you explain to us, I guess, a little bit about that? Because I know there was a lot of confusion. People were like, oh, the hash rate doesn't make any sense. Could they be fudging it in the background? I mean, obviously, you're going to take this in a whole bunch of different parts, right? But I guess let's talk about the chip and the tile on the boards and how this was just kind of a blown up design. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically on the board is we were testing it. It's a miniature design of our ASIC. But the chip itself, tile 1, is actually an expanded version of our ASIC that we wanted to test during the MPW run at Global Foundries. And with that, we were able to test critical architecture needed that's not in the libraries of the IP, the fabless semiconductor companies that have, these enormous amounts of libraries with IP, wasn't tested physically on silicon. And that's what's delayed us on being able to open pre-orders, because we had to test that and validate it. So with this expanded version, you can't really compare it to, the power efficiency numbers, because what happens is it basically validates the sims and on the software that tells you what your chip is going to be able to do from Cadence, because that's who we're using for the design and architecture and everything, because they do everything from sims to place and route with that software. So when it comes down to the final ASIC, we will basically have the tile 1 will be compressed down, and then we're going to have 255 of those, tile 1s, which isn't compressed. And then we have one tile 0, which is a compute tile, which allows us to do the get rid of the daisy chain lottery, to basically turn off a tile if it's not hashing, and also to, in real time, optimize the clock frequency of each ASIC over its lifespan. And on top of that, you get the diagnostics 24/7 from the ASIC if you're wanting that access to that data as well.
Gotcha. Now, in regards to the fudging the hash rate comments, now, is there anything is there a reason that I guess the math doesn't add up with this whole thing? Could you explain that a little bit, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's if we got to connect to a pool in a far eastern country for 450 hashes, I think we're going well beyond the Call of Duty with what we're trying to fudge, if that's what the case. So comments like that, there is, and this is what we've spoke about in DC as well. There's a huge divergence of the knowledge gap between the manufacturer and the miner. I mean, a lot of people don't know what takes place because this industry's been so opaque when it comes to mining chips. But we're looking forward to taking everybody along with that journey. All the way from the beginning, all the way to when we deliver. So it'll be a good learning opportunity for anybody, and we're open for any questions that people might have. So just feel free to reach out if they have any questions.
Yeah, and I think they could reach you on Twitter, and there's I assume there's emails and stuff on your website if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's at support at Lokotech.no, or reach out through the sales channel,
Okay.
or reach out to me directly on Twitter.
Perfect. All right, let me grab some questions from the chat. Actually, Geek of All Trades, do you want to grab any? You can do one, and then we'll just kind of take
absolutely.
turns.
So Ben, Crypto KJ asks, are there any future plans for the use on the chips for other avenues? Basically, is it just a script chip, or can it be used on other algorithms and projects?
No, it will be only a script chip for mining specifically. However, there's an AI aspect in it on the AI block to where it's an on-off switch directly from the foundry, where we blow a fuse pretty much. And we do have a different revenue stream for this, and it's a completely different industry, but we're not going to know too much about that until we actually have the physical commercial ASICs in hand and be able to test that against PyTorch and ASICS and other software of the sort.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Max, you want to grab one from the chat?
Well, it just made me think of one person had asked about, hey, since you're in Norway, can we just drive over and pick it up when they're available? And made me kind of think, actually, can we fly over to try to avoid any type of extra fees and government fees?
I don't think there's any tariffs.
Oh, they're not any tariffs? Oh, yeah, because...
No, there's no tariffs. I mean, we're not... Actually, this is what's really good about our product, because we'll be manufacturing in stateside. We'll be manufacturing in Norway, and all the wafers will be produced at Malta, New York at Global Foundries. So I mean, the facilities, of course, we want to, ship it, streamline it to the customer. But if you want to come by and pick it up, we're more than welcome to.
That's actually a really good point. I don't think anybody's brought up is that, when we see the prices of other ASICs, they don't factor in the tariffs.
This is 27.5% from China is quite expensive, but I mean, our competitor's been pretty good at mitigating that through manufacturing elsewhere.
Oh, okay.
Max, you just going to show up in Norway with like a duffel bag and then come back?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Trick or treat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trick or treat.
Like carry on.
All right, we got another question in the chat. So Chuck Danger said, what guarantee can they offer that the product will 100% come to fruition without a working unit? It sounds like Lokotech is hoping and wishing everything goes smooth.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing as any fabless semiconductor company. I mean, you want to test and validate to the point to where you show success. Everybody does this. I mean, when Apple brings $1 billion chip to market to use on their product, it's software based. They're not going to the foundry and producing this in a 3-month cycle turnaround because there's a lot of layers on those ASIC. I would hate to see the Gantt charts for those, but the software has gotten so good in the last 5 to 10 years. You're plus or minus a few percent from what your closest efficiency numbers are. And then that's why we actually went above and beyond the Call of Duty by doing the MPW run to test the critical architecture, because the stuff that we don't need to test is the stuff that's in the library. I mean, we're not too worried about that. It was the stuff that we custom designed that went on the ASIC. And that's what we were able to test for the critical architecture needed for that efficiency. So we're very confident that can come to market. I mean, there can always be black swan events, but that's in any industry. But as a public company, everything that we bring to market has to be 100% factually correct, or we can be in trouble. And I mean, people can have their own opinion on it, but we're bringing an ASIC to market on the traditional path rather than just rushing it to market because crypto's hot right now. It's or got to get the ASIC out. We're not doing risk runs or any of that. So
right. So now, are you guys going to be, once you guys get these all built, are you guys going to be selling them to resellers like, say, Crypto Miner Bros or Bitmain or anything along those lines? Are you guys going to completely stay separate?
Sell to Bitmain. That would be funny.
I assume it's a no, but that was a question in the chat.
No, I mean, we like I said, we don't want to be, bringing a middleman into the game. I mean, there are a few areas of the world that you do have to have a middleman. I mean, you basically have to have a receiver for the freight forwarder. But other than that, we want to do it directly to every customer because that way we have the best oversight who they are, what's going on, is their product working or not, like to streamline just a good customer experience.
Gotcha. Now, so like, I guess for my own personal just question right now, if this doesn't, say you have a Black Swan event, like you just mentioned, something drastically goes wrong. Now, with all the investors' money that went in, how does that work? Like, you guys go around and refund everybody, or like what happens there? Is it get rolled into the next product? Like, how did that go with like the bulldozer thing? I guess because I know that was a big question that people had.
Yeah, that's actually I like to talk about that because I mean I've reached out to LA Token to take it down, but they don't. That's way past the fact. But the original ASIC design that we were looking to be selling was called the bulldozer. We made a design. It was very good design. But the problem is the wafer was not dense enough for us to get too many ASIC miners out of one wafer. And wafers are expensive, man. They're not cheap. And when you can only get about two machines out of one wafer, it doesn't pencil out if you went to sell it to retail because you wouldn't be able to sell it. We could, however, been able to self mine, but in this industry, we all know how that would have ended up if we had some banger chip and we were just self mining, and then everybody would be like, "Oh, there's going to be a 51% attack." We didn't want to do that, so we went back to the drawing board, knowing that we had a design, it just wasn't dense enough, and we were able to make actually quite a few improvements. It took a long time, but made quite a few improvements to get to the point where we're at, where we tested and validated our design to the point to where we can open pre-orders.
Gotcha. Now, what happened with I guess all the investment that went in? Because did you take pre-orders for the bulldozer? How did that work? Oh, you didn't.
We only just started taking money about 2 weeks ago when we opened up to the subscribers.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I thought you guys had pre-orders on the bulldozer. Okay.
And the investors' money, that was all part of the investors. So when we raised the $13.5 million, that's all part of the redesign as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good news. At least.
Yeah. So we didn't have to go back out to the capital markets and raise extra capital to finish the design or something, or redesign.
Right. Max, you want to rip something from the chat? Oh, muted.
Sure, I had it on mute. Got lawnmowers going outside. Anyway, any information on the specs of the UBS miner?
The USB miner?
USB, sorry. I was like, why does that not look right?
Yes, isn't that a bank?
I was like, what is that?
I was just reading what it said.
No, it's no, definitely. I mean, we're looking at we'd love to have 10 ASICs on it. That'd be 156 megahash around, and a little over 10 watt. But I mean, depending on if we want to do a USB-C hub, I know that they're pulling some interesting power numbers, but we haven't really dove into the system design. So we'd like to maximize. If we do that path, we'd like to maximize whatever we can for someone's just home use. If they want to solo mine with it, or if they just want to stack them up and have a hub running. So I mean, don't take my word for 10 ASICs on it, but I mean that's what I like to strive for. But if like anybody can be profitable, really, as long as we can put enough ASICs on it.
Right. I mean, you guys, from what I gathered, anyways, being down in DC, you guys were saying that you're focusing on the hash blade. You're just, the USB miner is kind of like back end, like maybe later on, but right now it's like full bore. We're going after this little script miner, and that's it. We're not going to focus on anything else.
Hash blade, we're a small team, so we don't want to focus, our energy on too many things. I mean, we we have to pick and choose what we want to go after. However, I mean, once we've debated on giving out the pin out to some universities and have a competition and let them design whatever. It's there's a bunch of different ways and avenues that you can do this. So,
gotcha. Mr. Ron Watkins in the chat said, will you be offering a Windows and Linux mining software, or do we rely on existing script software? He said, also, will this work with Hive OS, like a mining software?
Yeah, the Hive OS, I believe we're going to be sending one out to those guys. A few of the guys from Nice Hash, they want a hash blade.
Oh, wow.
We'll be definitely doing a Linux based. I mean, that's the best way forward for sure. I mean, right now we're on Windows based. But we want to make it as user friendly as possible for sure.
Awesome.
It will be it's open source, so you can make your own if you actually want to.
Okay, it's open source. Awesome. Perfect.
Well, that's actually a good segue into. There's probably people asking about the if we're going to be able to overclock it or not. with the so I'll go ahead and jump into that. So, kind of GUI is open source, but when it comes to the clock frequency, we're actually optimizing the clock frequency for each ASIC via the microcontroller. So we're already running it at the highest performance. We're not underclocking by any means, and it will automatically optimize itself during the longevity of its lifespan. So, I mean, 4 years it'll be running at a different clock frequency. Recognize what it needs to be running at. So we're not really too worried about allowing people to do that, since we're already, pushing it to its limits. But, I don't want to hold anything in stone. If we ever do open it, we do open it. But it is what it is.
Makes sense. Geek of all trades, go for it.
Yeah. So Douglas Hayden asks, what percentage of the hash rate is part of the service fee? I've seen a pitch deck from the Bulldozer, and it included a fee.
Yeah, there it is. There is no service fee. It's basically just a hash blade. There's no, your controller will be your, the motherboard that you use, or the Raspberry Pi, or whatever you use to use it as a controller. So there isn't a way for us really to disguise a dev fee on the hash blade, because it's really just a component with a bunch of ASICs on it. So the story behind the Bulldozer was, we were actually going to be taking about 30% of the a dev fee of 30%, because there's nothing else out there. I mean, our only competition was the ASICS Plus and the L3 Plus, L3 Plus Plus, and we dropped that because the L7 came out. So when we deliver those units, you basically have a cheaper upfront price, say $400 or $500, but we'd be taking the 30% on the hash rate on the backside. If someone released a more powerful machine, then we'd release that hash rate to the end user. And then we saw that as a cheaper barrier to entry for people that could only afford smaller miners and stuff. So it was a good business model, I thought. But I mean, as we just discussed in DC, I mean, a lot of people just see that as cheating, despite us being open about it. And I figure a lot of people just want the hash rate outright. So that's what we're doing now.
Gotcha. So there's a couple like questions in the chat where I know a lot of people are wondering, like, is there a reason you guys haven't came up with a prototype of the actual hash blade itself? Just like create one unit just to see if it works. Is there any like reason behind that, making like the proof of concept versus doing that?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is another deviation between the knowledge gap between the manufacturers and the miners.
Yep.
I mean, so we got about $6.5 million into designing this product. For us to have a commercial ASIC after the validation, after the testing, more validation, more testing, and we actually go to tape out and we drop in the GDS2 file to the foundry. We go through 1 month of DRC, which is a design rule check, which is basically a last check to make sure that your design will function when the wafers come off the line. And once they start that, the masking process, you're looking at another $5.56 million fee.
Oh, wow.
I mean, for us to produce 6 hash blades and put out before we have this validation and testing completed, and then we have to pay another $6 million. That's why a lot of companies pre-sale for this, because then you can get allotment at the foundry quicker, and you're able to get the chips off the line faster. So I mean, that it's an expensive fee for the masking, and all that is layer by layer cookie cutter to make sure that your wafers can all be made the same.
So essentially, you're saying this is just part of the process. It's just
part of the process, that's I mean, with us having, I think we got about 1,600 investors. Like, we took the safest path possible by having an MPW run. You ask anybody else, nobody does MPW runs. Nobody. I mean, we could have validated this thing on an FPGA and been done with it and just take pre-orders, but we weren't willing to accept that without being able to test the critical architecture needed on silicon physically, before opening pre-orders. So that was the most important part for us.
And the MPW doesn't provide enough chips to make board hash blades.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You don't get that much space on an MPW run, because you're on there with a ton of different companies wanting to test silicon. It's not a ton.
Gotcha.
Maybe like 60, 30.
Yeah. Ben, I think in DC you put it really well. You said this is what $6.5 million gets you.
Yeah, pretty much. I could just
And
imagine.
you get to
how-
drill a hole in it.
Yeah,
And
I
then
could
we
just
get to
imagine
destroy
how
it,
painful
yeah.
that was. That was drilling a hole in that thing hurt me. I could just imagine how bad it hurt you guys because you only got X amount of those chips, right? As of right now,
Yeah.
crazy.
So as long as me, Christian, and Ola got aboard, I didn't care. That's it.
Right.
I mean, we're all co-founders. I'll
Right,
hang
yeah.
that from my neck. Nobody will understand what it is, but I'll
Yeah.
still get it.
You got that far. I mean, hey, you know what? It was nice to see it working regardless of the hash rate. It was nice to see how fast that unit picked up at the pool and there was zero delay. It was literally like 10 seconds from when I plugged it in or started the miner to when it registered in LTC pool. It was crazy. It really was. I mean, Geek of all trades, you were right next to me when I did it. It was instant.
But the funniest thing is when I watched Geek All Trades video the other day, he goes, "Don't plug it in. It gets real warm."
Yeah.
Not that I would know. Yeah.
Yeah, not that I would know or tried that or anything. I'm just saying it gets hot really quick. So I hear.
The best.
But yeah,
dry humor in
I
the
mean,
community.
back to the hash rate faking. I don't want to step on anybody, but that's not something you fake. Is 450 hash to 700 or 470 hash.
Right.
That's not something you fake at all.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
why would you want to do that? It makes absolutely no sense. It's not
No.
profitable at all. I guess is now what's the advantage, I guess, of you know how some of these miners take like 30 minutes to register at the pool, say the Jazz miner, right? Now, how did you, I guess, do that differently where it like registers like that? Like, is there like technical something behind it
Yeah,
that
well,
makes
I
you
mean,
do that?
As we discussed before, and you say is what we noticed, especially Arva, our tech lead, he comes from the ISP industry. I mean, he is a full stack developer, very, very affluent in coding. And he just came out and said it is absolutely terrible, the lines of code that people have written for a lot of the miners. So, I mean, he's streamlined the whole process, and that's where we see a lot of benefit being able to streamline it even more. And plus, we're not looking like we don't want a slow connection when it comes into the pool. I mean, Christian, you'll be able to add more in on this as well.
Well, what we actually saw was some different other miners that they made a product that works, and then they left it working, kind of.
It was enough.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
we don't like that. We want good code. We want solid code.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Game with Smokey Dan said in the chat, will the hash blades be a single slot or dual or triple? He said, as good to know. Oh, it's good to know how many cards you could fit in a server case. Actually, you guys you have a server case kind of thing ready to like
Yeah, the
pre-order,
10
right?
stack.
10 stack,
Yeah.
that's what it's called. Yeah, thing's actually pretty sweet. Let me see if I can show it here actually. This thing.
But yeah, it will be
So-
single.
This is pretty neat. Yeah, so single port, right? Yeah, because the hash blade itself, like this is what the hash blade is
Yeah.
I guess projected to look like, right? Just gonna be a single PCIe slot, right on the motherboard. You can stick it literally in your normal PC. That's pretty much the whole idea, I assume, right? Almost 2 gigahashes, 145 watts. Obviously, taking into account your PSU, if it can handle it. But this 10 stack, this is literally a server case. I just saw this today for the first time from Mr. Geek of all trades showed me. And it's pretty neat. There's 10 of these in a case, and this is able to be pre-ordered, which is neat. So I guess
Well,
do you
then,
want to
I
talk
mean,
about this a little bit?
Yeah, the 10 stack, it's something that it's quite interesting because, we figured a lot of people, maybe we're just naive, but we figured a lot of people would see the hash blade and actually see the benefits that it has to offer. But everyone just would compare it to the L7. It doesn't have 9.5 gig. It doesn't, it's
That's so true.
It only has 2.
Yep.
And then
that's
we
so
just
true.
put it in a rack because we've had a plan for doing this, before we open pre-orders for the subscribers. And now everyone's like, oh my God, this thing's huge. This is a huge game changer. And it's like, it's the same
It's
thing.
the same damn
Right?
thing on a
It's the same
riserless
thing. It's
motherboard
the
inside a
Same
metal
thing in a
box.
case. So, it is a little overkill because it's not
Right.
GPUs, but yes, it is a single slot. You'll be able to it's actually 12 slots in that case. And we figured that
Wow.
somebody, if they want to put like a Wi-Fi card in, or if they want to put a USB, like they'll be able to throw that in and it'll work just fine.
That's a good
So,
idea.
or if they want to put
Wow.
2 more hash boards in, that works.
Right.
So, we're pretty stoked about that. Again, it's the biggest game changer is when I talk about our product compared to the L7, it's the break-even point on, the cost of power is, 65 to 67 cents per kilowatt hour when the L7 is at 15 to 16 cents.
Right.
That is, I mean, it's hard to
Unreal.
tell people that, but it's that's a massive benefit to have people run during the good times and during the bad times during these 4-year cycles.
Look at this, 1,750 watts plus or minus 10%, obviously, and almost 20 gigahashes. That's wild. Now, just to be devil's advocate when it comes to the L7s, when those during the bull run, I have a sheet that shows an L7 like 9,500 for like 27 grand, and
that was ridiculous.
This right here is like, so it's pre-order for, it's just under 20,000, right, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, realistically, it's not out of the ballpark of what those things should go for, right? Because by the time they come out, I'm sure we're going to be seeing an upside in the market as a whole. Mr. Max,
we're expecting. I mean, everybody knows or thinks or has their own opinion when this bull market will start. I see it being at probably the end of next year before anything really.
Right.
So it's there's the only thing I'm worried about is anything geopolitical right now. So.
Yeah, that's true. Mr. Max, what do you feel about this whole thing, server case?
I think it looks cool. Actually, going into that, it made me think about this. So somebody had asked early on, I don't think we had asked it yet, which was how many PCIe lanes
Yeah,
for the
12.
12.
Yeah.
12 lanes per card.
No.
No.
Oh no, per card. I thought you talking. I mean, I thought you were talking about the slots in the machine. It's 12. I mean, we're sending with 10, but it's 12 slots.
No, I mean each card. I was looking at the picture. It looked like it was only one lane per card.
Yeah, it's an X1.
Okay.
Yeah, because they'll work on a riser, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. It works on a riser, and
It made me think, because you talked about having it run on a Raspberry Pi, and I'm like, well, the only way you could run on a Raspberry Pi is with a riser, then it must be X1. So just wanted to.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, still with a Raspberry Pi, it is kind of iffy because they just came out with that. That's the first one that they kind of came out with. It would be cool to see, though.
Mm-hmm.
Just have a Raspberry Pi and a hash plates.
But
also, be badass.
It doesn't need to run on PCI lanes only.
Just so you know, I have a history of doing things for the first time. So if you want to send me one, I'll make sure I run it on a Raspberry Pi.
Wait, what did Christian? What did you say just before Max said that?
Well, we have actually different communication models also for the board, so it doesn't need to run on just PCI lane.
Is this the USB-C thing that you guys were talking about?
Yeah.
That was going to be a possibility, right? So they're going to have like an option to have a USB-C port on it that you can run directly from it. That's so crazy. That's cool. I totally forgot we even talked about that actually down in DC. That's funny.
What I was thinking about was getting it on a Raspberry Pi, but you can get basically USB-C to an M.2,
right.
and then doing an M.2 to an adapter, and then plugging the hash blade into that.
You were going all the way around.
I was going all the way around.
Perfect. All right, guys, I know we're just getting like the main questions out of the way right now. I'm gonna start getting into the more stuff in the chat. Geek of all trades, did you see anything you were gonna mention?
Yeah, so Dan R asks asking, are you guys going to sell out all the small miners and just take bulk orders that lock out everyone else for the first year, and we have to buy back orders? So I think he's asking if you're just selling to larger, or if you'll sell one by one like B2C.
No, the minimum order is 1. We want decentralization because I mean our ethos at the company is literally decentralization is through the miners, not through the amount of ASICs running. I mean these farms that got 50,000 units, that's one miner. I'm sorry, that does not increase decentralization and security of the network. It's I mean, we want B2C to benefit, and actually, one of the big things that we saw was why Ethereum got so big. Because I mean, you had one guy that was down on his luck. He had a gaming PC. He got his GPU mine. Now he's making $5 to $10 a day, and then he started telling everybody. So now this guy started building out his farm, and look where they're at. Now after all these years. I mean, and then ETH, kind of shot him in the head, but we want to do the same thing with Litecoin and Dogecoin. I mean, the more people that benefit and maintain profitability, the more people are going to talk about it. I mean, the smallest guy always has the loudest microphone. So of course we will have like large mining, but we're limiting them to like how many units that they can order. I mean, we're not going to be selling more than like, 2 megs to, like, I would probably say 6 clients or 8 clients.
Okay.
And then everybody else, even on the website, you can order up to 128, and then anything over 128, we start getting into like in the like a smaller key account, but we really don't want to lock up their liquidity to where we can actually, you can put 5% down, and then the rest is due once we get the invoice from the foundry. So we're trying to be a good steward of the industry, given all the blows that we've had, throughout the years. And Christian's taken a lot more than I have. So
in summary,
he got some more wounds.
So in summary, there's a value in having miners help push your project. Yeah.
Yes, Max.
Max is still
and
sour,
that-
can't you tell?
Oh yeah, just a bit.
He wants to plug it into the Raspberry Pi.
Right.
So Ben, I think you just answered Amplifier Gaming's question on the max amount of pre-orders a single person can get, and through the website that's 128.
Right.
Yep. We already answered Crypto KJ's. Will it work on an X4? Yeah, just a regular X1 slot. We have Mumph in the chat said when they are done with script, he said, do they have a project or something else, like a different algo or any other thing in mind after?
No, I mean, we do have some, preliminary numbers off of what we could get for Shaw, and we do have some other algos that we wouldn't mind helping out and going after.
Mm-hmm.
But until hard numbers are out, we can't really say anything. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
just
I
keep
mean,
your head down and focus on
course,
one
I
thing.
mean, this is our bread and butter is script, but we definitely want to go after some more algos, in the near future, I would say, because it's a long design process.
Right. Now, I guess, again, being devil's advocate, right, crypto goes to 0. These hash blades aren't completely useless, right? They do have the option to, or you're going to be having some sort of variant where it can go like AI based, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like how does the AI, I guess, come into this whole hash blade things? We did talk about it a little bit, but I'd like to get your explanation of it.
Well, I wouldn't say that you would really have a different use case for it. I mean, we do the AI ASIC is actually the exact same chip. However, we do have a security feature in there for it to either be used as AI and or used as script mining. So, and the form factor of the hash blade would be, I believe, too many ASICs. I mean, these are going to be probably, 1 to 6 ASICs on a component board for AI. But I don't know. I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we get here.
Right.
Sure.
I guess what I was
to
trying to get at is like, why would like investors want to invest this much money into crypto, say they don't know much about it? Like you guys have an additional avenue that these chips could take if you had to go that route, so your investors feel a lot more confident in your company.
Well, it's not like we just decided to have AI. I mean, AI has been a part of the project the whole time. So, I mean, we definitely want to go after AI, and that's actually quite a benefit for us and for our shareholders is, having that second revenue stream once we actually run this in PyTorch and ALEX, once the commercial ASIC comes off the line. Because, I mean, as Geek of All Trades has talked about before, and this is all just preliminary numbers, but, I mean, it could actually be bigger than the script, but we have no clue. I mean,
Right.
none of our team is proficient in it, but we do, we're keeping a pretty, close ear to the industry to see where we're going to be able to go with this thing. Because the preliminary numbers are good, but I mean, until you actually get it out and test it, that's when you really got something or not. So
Right.
Yes, and it will be different boards, less chips and more memory.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Little different
Yeah.
boards, less chips, more memory. Interesting. Okay. Let's see, Mr. Max, you got anything in the chat you want to grab?
Yeah, one
quick.
person asked. We asked about the 1x. Does it have like? I'm looking at the picture of it, and it looks like it's like it would fit in a 16 slot. But is there a slot behind the actual pins in order to fit into a 1x? That was somebody.
no,
else.
so you can see the X1 slot. That's actually a break-off component. It's just more for if you do have a X16 slot, you can throw that in, and you actually have
okay.
the board to be there.
Oh, just
Yeah,
to hold it.
will fit in all slots.
Yeah, it
It's
can
more
fit in all slots.
for X8, X60.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah,
But
you can see it
it's
actually.
more for
to the brake.
support than anything.
That's funny. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, you
That's
can see
right.
the groove that goes across the top. The only thing I don't like about it is you break off her logo.
Nobody.
But
Yeah.
it's what it is.
Yeah, snap it off on the board. Damn it. Well, there goes that. Let's see.
Real
Geek
quick,
Wall Trades,
guys.
grab
We
it.
got we got 120 people watching here and only 48 likes. Hit that like button and share the stream out. Get some
Please,
more people in
appreciate
here.
you.
This is really good stuff, guys, for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on again, Ben and Christian. You guys are awesome. This is obviously we're trying to just clear up the air because it's just been a lot of BS and FUD that honestly these guys don't deserve. I think they went through a lot of this would be a lot of headache for, you know, I don't know, just like to be a rug. It just doesn't make any sense to me for people to sit there and say that. So I'm like, you know what? Will you guys come on live? Let's answer some questions and, you know, that's it. Just get the truth right from the horse's mouth instead of us telling you what we don't really know about, you know. It's just something that needed to be done. So I appreciate it. Let's see.
Well, thanks for having us on as well. I mean, we always appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. Broski's in the chat says, let's say they don't meet their quota in the first batch. Will they increase the limit purchase? It says, in quotes, able to buy more. I'm not sure I completely follow that. I mean, you guys, this really.
I mean, the thing is, I mean, if it's a B2C customer and you're purchasing more than 128 ASICs then or 28 hash blades, you just reach out to us directly. We're manually controlling the amount of hash blades that we sell. So because we don't want somebody buying everything up and then reselling it, of course. So I mean, it's basically we can deny anybody. So but yes, sense. I mean it's I mean for people that are interested and more than that, just feel free to reach out and then we definitely have a term sheet and everything that's there and you can read it out. So
here's a good one. POW Blockchain Mining asks, once you guys put these at market, what makes you think Bitmain won't reverse engineer the technology?
Oh, we welcome to. I mean, that's extremely difficult to do. It'd be cheaper to buy us.
Yeah.
The third count of money, it's cheaper to buy us. I mean, it's
much faster.
It's way much faster. Right? I mean, like for someone to reverse engineer and actually have the tooling to micro slice everything, take a picture, even X-ray, all that stuff. It's then you got to figure out what the logic's doing, what's the memory doing, what's the pin out. Like there's a ton of different aspects that go into this thing, a lot of variables. It'd just be such a huge hassle. I mean, it's not like we created a chip that can hack everything. It's it mines script. So, and it's a good AI chip.
Yeah. And Ben, I asked you when we were in DC flat out, how much would it take for you to sell to Bitmain?
I don't want to. Nope. No, it's I mean, we want to be good actors, and again, I mean, we're big believers in this industry, and we see more money with Litecoin, Dogecoin, or any other coin on the script algo going up in value than by being a good actor than just flooding the market with hash rate and or just selling it out to a bad actor.
Yeah. You said back then, we're not for sale.
No.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. 85 mineable coins on script algorithm.
Sorry, what was that, Christian?
I think it's 85 mineable coins on the script algorithm.
Oh, so he's answering literally, I was just looking at that question. Can this mine other coins on the script algo? So yeah, 85 coins. Damn.
I think one of the other top ones is I mean, I think Verge blew up there for a sec because they just mined out their last coins or something.
Yeah. Yep. They did.
And then Digibyte's 20%.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's quite a few that have just kind of died off. Like I mean, but it is what it is.
Gotcha. Now I know we've talked about this before. What was it? The 12 nanometer thing. Like why choose 12 nanometer versus just going straight down to the 7 or whatever? Could you explain that to everybody just so they kind of get the gist of what you explained to us?
Yeah. So when we got our design simulated and we figured out which node that we wanted to be on, we were going through the library and seeing what the 12 nanometer had to offer, and we actually liked the benefit of it. So and plus it's quite open line space as well. I mean, you're not going towards the bleeding edge technology and then fighting Moore's law by just going down and cutting the hair smaller and smaller to get the small nanometer. And what's good about the 12 is since the library or the line space is quite open, since me and Max were talking about that earlier, was because the cars run on it, it's just way cheaper as well. I mean, you start going down. I mean, wafers are expensive, but when you start going down to the the 8, 7, 5, the 3, I would absolutely hate to see how much a wafer costs, for the 5 or the 3. That would be absolutely ridiculous. But that's what helps us out being a small company, and us being able to get this efficiency on the 12 nanometer is a huge competitive advantage, because not only are we taking the top dog by almost 400%, we can basically take the design down to the 7 or the 5, spin the 25 to 30 mil, and you can double the hash rate and half the power consumption. I mean, that's what going down to lower nodes means. And we're setting, by being on the 12, we're setting a huge barrier to entry for anybody that's going to be coming in, because they're going to have to do a complete full redesign instead of just being able to go down to the next nanometer. Because even if they tried going down to the next nanometer, say they double the hash rate and half the power consumption, they're still not up to our specs. But then they got a crazy expensive wafer that they have to pay for, for the manufacturing of their units. And the line space is dried up because Apple and all the other big companies are on. Mm-hmm. So we strategically wanted to go for a higher node if we were able to make a more efficient ASIC because of that.
Gotcha. Now, speaking of like the line, being in line at the facilities to get all these chips, and but you guys are in some sort of line, right, to get this production going forward, if I'm not mistaken. Now, does the pre-orders have anything to do with that? Like, are you guys still going forward with production regardless of how many pre-orders you sell right now, I guess?
Yeah, correct. I mean, we're moving forward with the pre-orders, and basically what we're doing is increasing the volume of the ASICs, because we want to make it up to like a tier 2. And if we make it up to the tier 2, you kind of jump the tier 1s. And then you can also actually, during one of our investor presentations, we were talking about not paying for prioritization, which means you're paying for a hotspot, a super hotspot. Yes, it increased the cost on our side, but we're able to deliver faster, and we're not charging the end user. So we definitely want those ASICs off the line quicker, because not only do we get them and we get to start delivering and make a happy customer quicker, but we also be able to self-mine with the quality control units as well. So the path to profitability is way quicker when you take that into factor.
Gotcha. Mr. Geek of all trades, go for it.
Yeah, we got Serpent in the chat here. Hey man, he's asking if we have any info about power delivery on the hash blades yet, or is this something we can discuss later? Yeah, I know he was pretty hot to trot on all of the intricacies on the board, and I think we're still talking about the chip at this point.
So what's Serpent asking about?
He said, do we have any info about power delivery on the hash blades yet?
Oh, the 2 8-pin? That can be 2 8-pin or 2 6-pin?
I'm guessing.
I would assume that's what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
Has to be. So yeah, there's going to be what, 2 8-pins or 2 6-pins on top of the board, as well as, well, yeah, you'd have to have that, and the USB-C would just be the communication, right? Wouldn't be any pulling power from that. Okay. Yeah, so 2 8-pins.
You use one 8-pin if you have good cables, but some of the power supplies you get is actually they have like thin aluminum wires, and they burn.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, if you buy them from Amazon, yeah, you get the thin cables with the thicker coating. They tell you it's like 16 gauge, and it's really like 20. That's how that goes.
Yep.
All right, I'm just trying to scroll through the chat. Max, you got anything?
One of the questions I saw was so their question was, hey, we've got a half-empty octominer. Can we put hash blades in there with GPUs and have half of it run on script and half of it run on GPU? And then the other part of that question is, hey, is there going to be integration with Hive OS or any of the other mining software?
Yeah, we definitely want the integration with Hive OS. Unfortunately, that's not on our side. That's for them.
Right.
But we'll be getting them alpha hash blade. Them and Nice Hash, as I mentioned before.
That's awesome. So would they be able to stick them all in the octominer with the GPUs, and they could run? Yeah. Oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah.
I mean, ASICs. Cool. I mean, people got to remember ASICs are very, very dumb. I mean, it doesn't take much communication at all. Like you can plug it into your computer, you can run it, and you can still do everything you're using your computer with. Like it doesn't take up anything.
That's so wild. That's
Mine,
crazy.
mine is turning it. Could you have upgrade the processor on the Octominer so you had more cores, put Proxmox on it, have half of it running on Hive OS on one VM and half of it running on.
Lord.
Sorry,
Sure you could.
I mean,
yeah,
the
sure
way
you
my
could.
mind was very place.
That's what we're all here for. We're all into that whole Ethereum, kind of plug and play and mess around. You can mess around with your Frankenstein if you want. That's all right. I like to keep it nice and simple and clean, and the less variables, the better when it comes to ASIC mining.
Chris Hanley in the chat said, "Will we see a working Hashblade before the first orders are shipped?" That's a good question, actually. Are you guys going to test one and do a video type deal?
Actually, I mean, we'll be sending one out to a lot of influencers, just sending them out and having you guys play around with them and stuff. So, I mean, we talked about that in DC.
Yep.
And there's a few guys that weren't able to make it that we wouldn't mind getting them out to. And then there's a few other people from around the world that we'll be sending them out to as well.
That's awesome. So so you guys will see it working before.
It'll be the alpha units for sure.
Yeah,
So,
if you come to Norway, we will make the video fast before we ship them out.
Max is booking his flight as we speak.
Did you not see me start to raise my hand?
Yeah. Oh my
he doesn't
God.
even need a carry-on or a check-in. He just has a Raspberry Pi.
That's
it.
I'm bringing, brother.
Dakota Miner said proprietary drivers for card in Windows environment ? He said, is this plug and play? Do drivers come in software? So I guess is there going to be a specific driver that they need to download from your website? How is that all going to work?
Yeah, starting out, I mean that's going to be then basically the end game where you'd have to have a driver and then download software to use it. I mean that's to start out. I mean we'll be having everything that works for our hash blades. And then as the industry moves forward, then people are going to build on top of that. So it's
so other miners will be able to pick up your hash blades and you'll be able to use whatever, just say LOL miner or T-Rex miner or whatever. Would that eventually they'd be able to use your hash blades?
Christian, you want to answer that?
Probably. Nice has also make their own software that you can download from them and just use for our hash blades.
Okay. So it's not going to be just proprietary. It'll be
no. It's open from our side, so whoever wants to make it, they can do it. But we can't force them to.
Right. Well, that makes sense. No, absolutely. Let's see. Ron Watkins says 145 watts is still pretty hot. Is it possible to add small heat sinks similar to a Raspberry Pi? That's a good question.
Yes. You can have a big heat sink on if you want. It actually will be holes in the board. The PCB board, so you can add on heat sinks if you want. I recommend not to glue on anything because, then you get a problem if you're going to take it off. But if you're going to run it in some super hot place, of course you can have heat sinks on if you want.
Now,
That's good to know.
would doing something like that, like gluing it on, void the warranty?
Well. Depends.
I mean, if somebody sends you a board,
I would say probably because depending on how hard that takes to come
They
off,
probably rip
you
the
rip
chip
all the
off.
components off with it. It's kind of like. Well, I mean, actually, to tell you the truth, I mean, it's 145 watts is not hot. I mean, at the chip level, because the packaging is going to dissipate a lot of heat, and then also our design doesn't allow a lot of heat retention, which is very good. I mean, if you know how to design an ASIC, you'd understand what I'm saying. But you'd understand a lot more what I'm saying. But it's not that bad. I mean, we're gonna have some a slug on each of the packages. They'll run through the board. I mean, if you just have a little air come across, you're fine. If you want to put an immersion, you're fine. And as Christian said, we're going to have pilot holes around the chip. So if somebody wants to throw on a custom water block, or if they want to throw on a custom heat sink, or if they just want to 3D print a custom fan bracket, let them do it. But I don't think you need it. So.
Gotcha. Ron Watkins says, do you have temperature sensors, or will you have temperature sensors on the hash blade? recommended for maximum running temp.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would
It is
assume so, yeah.
also a temperature sensor inside every chip.
Inside every chip. Okay. Wow.
Mm.
Oh, damn. That's kind of neat, actually.
Yeah.
Interesting. Max, you got anything?
Not at the current moment.
Or anything you that maybe you have as a question versus what you see in the chat about like maybe any of their chip design? Or I know you like, I know you used to work somewhere that had to do with manufacturing, right? Am I wrong?
Correct. Well, I guess, I mean, we could ask the question that I asked in the previous stream, which was just in general, walk us through the process, the timeline, the risk, how you have designed in such a way that you reduce the amount of risk as far as lead time, those types of things that we talked about earlier.
You mean from where we're at now for the
I
validation?
mean, from a point of you already have the chip, now you're designing the board and the manufacturing.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, basically, we got the outline of the board already done. We're finalizing a few things. That doesn't take much time for us to complete, and we'll be starting that after the new year. And we're actually looking at doing the L3 Plus board as well, but that's not really decided on yet. That we know there's interest, but then once that takes place, that's a 2-month process, and it just continues to go through and through. And then once we deliver the GDS2 file in for tape out in Q2, it goes through what I talked about earlier on the design rule check with the foundry to make sure everything is wholesome and will work going forward to the best possible knowledge of global foundries. And then we go straight into masking and then production from there. So, and then once the ASICs come off, all the ASICs or the wafers are going to be produced in Malta, New York, at Global Foundries. It'll be shipped off. We'll have a manufacturing facility in the U.S. We'll have a manufacturer's facility in Norway. Products will ship to the end user via the proximity of the nearest manufacturer. And I didn't know if you wanted me to talk about much of the pick and place, because the way we design our system design is very secure, because when we are deciding upon our BOM, we're actually picking multiple components that are compatible, and also even the communication protocol, whether it be the PCIe, a UART, or SPI. We're basically pinning out the board to make sure that if in real time we have a delay with a component, we can switch it up, pop those in, and go forward. So
that's exactly what I wanted you to say, because that is key. There are so many, being in the industry, there are so many manufacturers like, nope, it has to be this, it has to be this, it has to be this, and it creates all kinds of problems. So the fact that you guys have already thought that far ahead is key.
Well, and then plus, Max, I mean, you'll like this too. I mean, typically when companies they go and design their product, and it's in its own little ecosystem. And then they go to the manufacturer and its own little ecosystem. Then they go to their needle test company, own little system. We're actually having all of them communicate together during the whole manufacturing process, to where we can streamline manufacturing, and everyone's talking to each other, to where the robots can pick off the board, the needle test equipment, test the board, and we can get it out to the end user as fast as possible. I know we talked about what's the burn-in process.
Yeah.
I told you it's industry standard. We're going to burn it in for about a year during bull markets. During the winters, we're going to start delivering.
Yeah, right. pull a good old bit, man.
No, but actually, you made another point. I think you're about ready to make it, which is because of your shareholders, you have to. What you have to actually state, like, how much you're actually self-mining. You have to be
that's another thing. I mean, that's back to our production limits, and basically why we're limiting production to self-mine. And I mean, a lot of people are like, how can we trust that you're only going to be doing this? Or, we don't believe having a Hashblade unit counter on your website for product shipped. I was like, we're a public company based in Norway. Like, we can't deviate from what our investors know. So we're going to be as transparent and wholesome as a company can be when it comes to manufacturing this product and getting it out to the end user.
Right. So, I was more surprised that we didn't know you were a public company when you actually told us earlier. We were like, oh man, we were all shocked. Like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a public company.
It makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the secondary market, so it's nothing We're not on the main exchange. We're on the secondary market.
Right. Well, public nonetheless, right? I get Patrick Murphy in the chat said, what is the biggest risk you face that could impact your anticipated delivery schedule of H2 2024 or Q2, I think you meant to say?
I would say, I mean, it's, components you can change out, system design teams you can change out, manufacturers, everybody you can change out. The only person you can't change out is the foundry. So as long as we, follow the foundry's rule and, they say jump, we jump. I mean, it's, unfortunately, you can't, like when we design on this line, we're basically stuck in this line, so when we go down to the 7 or the 5, then we'll be on another line, but whatever line you design for, you're specifically for that line. So I'd say that's probably the biggest risk for us right now is how the foundry, reacts or whatnot. But it's industry standard. So I mean, they have different tiers. As long as you got a bunch of buying power, or you come up with large volumes, or whatnot, you'll be able to make it.
So that's your funnel.
Yeah, that and I would say packaging. I mean, packaging right now, especially with, AI is banging right now, and the electronics industry is really flowing pretty heavy. So I would say like the ASIC packaging, but I mean, we're trying to de-risk that and streamline that as well. So.
I'm going to put a link to their website in the chat. Feel free to go check it out if you guys are interested. Again, this isn't a paid interview. I literally asked him to do this to clear up the air because it's just been absolutely absurd with all the questions and heckle that we've gotten since DC. I know Geek of All Trades has been dealing with it too. Yeah, so let's see. Crypto KJ said, does the Hashblade have built-in firmware? Or will it, I guess?
Well, it has a built-in controller,
okay,
like a computer. So it's that's running some software, yeah.
Okay.
On the microcontroller, that's basically what allows you to jump into the the real-time diagnostics at the chip level. You can be able to. It turns off the tiles if they're not hashing. And the self-optimization of the clock frequency for each ASIC as well.
Actually, that's a cool thing to talk about. So the tiles that shut off individually if they're not working. So your entire card, unlike a GPU, doesn't just die. Like one tile will shut off and everything else will still work. Is that how that?
So basically for all the miners out there, that's one thing the competition has done very well. They can move power efficiently on the PCBAs. Holy cow! But one of the downsides to that is the daisy chain lottery. Whether you hit the first, chip on the line or the last chip, that's that lottery that you don't want to play.
Right.
Because then you got downtime for repairs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our ASIC is it's literally the first of its kind smart ASIC for cryptocurrency mining with the microcontroller. And one of the big reasons why we put that in there actually is because of the AI. However, I don't want to go into that segment. But with that microchip or microcontroller, we're able to utilize that to where it sees if a tile is not hashing, it'll turn it off. If a raceway on the chip goes down, it turns off a core of the chip. If you have a full chip failure, turns off the ASIC and routes the power to the next chip with no issues in mind. So simply put, if your chip's not hashing, it's not consuming power.
That's pretty neat. That is pretty.
Yeah,
neat.
it's. I tell you the truth, we've talked about it over and over throughout the years, and we have no clue why nobody else has done this, because it's not like a novel thing in the industry.
Very interesting.
So it's just something we wanted to throw in.
Yeah, and if a half chip goes down, only a half chip on the whole board goes down. Well, you can choose to run it, or you can send it back for repair. But what do you choose? Well, run it probably.
Yeah, you want to limp along, or do you want to send it back for RMA? Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So it's quite different than an S17 that somebody received, and when one board is bad, or one thing is bad on the entire board, the whole board is just trash.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks, Bitmain.
Yeah. I think you were the one that received that. Do you guys have a estimated how many hash blades are going to be created in batch 1?
Yes and no. We can't really say that because of the shareholders.
Okay.
But the batch 1, we want to get to an amount at the foundry that we like, and then we'll close it off after that.
Makes sense. Okay. Geek, do you want to read Yeti's question? Or
Yeah,
any of
Yeti
this?
asked, when you mention AI, what type of AI are you thinking, given so many variables on AI? How would an ASIC be able to handle this? Or are you sticking to specific AI processes?
Well, it's going to be a good inferencing ASIC because the script algo runs a lot on memory, and we're able to utilize that with the AI block on the ASIC itself. So the estimates that we're looking at is about 1 petop per second, but as anybody in the industry knows, it's not a good measurement for benchmarking against say Apple or anybody else. But then that's why we have to wait for us to get the commercial ASIC to run it in PyTorch or ASICS, as we were discussing before. And it should be, our guess are it's going to be very good at audio, text, visual, or an accelerator. Is what we're planning on using it for. So.
Gotcha. Now, somebody in the chat, I don't even know if you can answer this, but they said, did the shareholders get a free hash blade?
I wish. I'll take one.
All right. That's crazy. That's funny. I mean, so you guys, now actually, that's a good question. So you guys are going to be self-mining. Like, how does that work? Are you going to, like, is it going to be like a separate company for like the mining facility you guys are going to have? Like, you got to purchase it from the actual, like, Lokotech brand, right? To mine at your own facility? Like, how does that work? You don't obviously say whatever you can, but don't do it too much.
Depending on the structure that you want to set it up for taxes, it could be
Right.
different. So I don't want to set anything in stone because
Right.
government can change, policies can change. But I would say, typically speaking, we're going to be taking off, every X. That's a different variable that's not equal. So it's not like every 10th blade. It's like every 15th. You want a different
Right.
variable because
Makes sense.
if you're setting more risk up by just taking the same one every number. So, but basically, we're just going to take that off. We'll have, we're very fortunate here. We got very cheap power. I think power prices right now, residential, Christian, what are you paying at your house?
Oh, it's variable.
I think I'm paying like 2 cents. Like it's
Yeah.
very,
We're
very
moving
cheap.
to Norway.
Well, we got a lot of power though. We have a ton
2
of
cents
power.
worth of-
But we're
Goddamn.
gonna be able to just throw that in at the facility and go from there. The location in the U.S. we'll
Jeez.
probably have to ship it out to a facility that has more better power. But it's going to be the same thing, different.
Yeah, and within the company, we have a couple of companies that are running data centers, and we have some properties with decent amount of power, so we can run those test facilities on those
Right.
properties.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right, guys, we're going to go for like another 10 minutes. Get your last questions in if you don't mind. That way we can kind of get things squared away. Max, if you see anything in the chat or on Geek of All Trades, feel free to just throw it out there.
The pirate asks, will they sell the BGA chips separately for small repair shops, especially for post-warranty repairs?
Well, that's kind of the godsend of the microcontroller. You don't need to repair it. If say you got 128 ASICs, you got one ASIC that goes down, you don't need to repair it. It's not the only reason you really send it out to repair is if you're burning power and it's not hashing. That's what's good about the microcontroller getting rid of that daisy chain lottery. Because if you got one chip down or 10 chips down, it doesn't really matter. Your hash rate goes down, but there's no costs associated with those chips being down.
Yeah, you don't take out that hash board from stopping it from hashing and then start to tickle with it to try to fix it when you can just turn off one chip.
Yeah.
And also, the warranty we have is send it back and we send you a new one. You don't need anybody to fix those.
Yeah.
And that's what's good about the Advanced RMA program is like people, if you have a DOA product, which happens in manufacturing, unfortunately it runs average about 2%. But if somebody has a DOA product, they can ship it back to us, and we'll probably, hopefully have you a blade back in about 10 days. And then we'll just repair that one and throw it in our own facility. So we don't we don't see the downside of it because we're receiving something, we're shipping something out, and we're going to be able to mine with that extra hash.
Yeah, why not? Makes sense. Now, have you guys, someone asked in the chat, why don't you start a hosting facility? That's a crazy low electric rate. Now, have you guys thought about that, doing any type of hosting? I mean, I guess for these, it really doesn't make sense because they're such low wattage.
I mean,
made for home miners, but
it's just too much. I mean, you don't want one company doing everything. I mean, we're looking at like,
makes sense, yeah.
you know, vetting hosting facilities that we'd like to list on the website, and you can send it to the nearest one. And, you know, when we develop partnerships like that, hey, you can use this, you know, you're 100 miles away, you know, you know the team, we vetted them, it should be good.
Yeah, there is a lot of facilities within, you know, driving range from the facility that do hosting.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
So, but I mean, we're taking too much of the hash rate then if we do that.
Right. Well, and you want to focus on one thing. You know, if you're gonna, you know, spread yourself so thin, you know, something's gonna lose somewhere, and that's obviously not a way to do.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to design a new ASIC, you know, it's not a way to do business. All right, let me see. Let's see if there's anything else I missed in the chat, guys. A few more minutes. We're gonna be getting out of here.
You know, at those rates, I know a guy that runs a hosting facility that might work with you, you know, to spin something up over there.
I was thinking the same thing.
Well, it's actually pretty tough to spin something up now. We actually stopped that just after the Russian invaded Ukraine. They locked down and became god of power. I mean, they're limiting everything to like 1 megawatt unless you're like a monster actor that comes in. Oh, but if you already had your PPAs in place, you're set. So.
Gotcha. I guess one thing we can talk about that the 10 times S1 server case you got going on now. Are you going to have the smart PSU integrated with that? I know you talked about that at the Litecoin Summit. Maybe something to mention if you guys want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, Christian has one of the earlier prototypes by him. Yeah, we are planning on potentially sending that out.
So that's smart. Look at that. That's awesome.
But I mean, you know, it's still ongoing because we had to focus on the chip so much. But it's not too much work left. But we definitely, if it doesn't, you know, meet up to snuff, then we'll ship it with like a gold PSU. But if not, then we'll be able to throw our, you know, gold PSU with it's a smart PSU.
Gotcha. And the advantage over a smart PSU versus just like, you know, a normal one. Obviously, you guys know as miners, we need to, you know, get those smart PDUs to be able to control the switches, shut our rigs off remotely. Smart PSUs, I assume, be able to, you know, kind of remote, just shut them off from your phone, kind of like, you know, if you're going through Ubiquity or whatever, just to reset stuff. It's kind of neat. I think that's a pretty cool option. Because I know, actually, Max, have you used to run or try to switch on and off your rigs through Hive OS, right? Am I mistaken?
I've done that before. Basically, you turn it off with a timer as to when it turns back on.
That's great. Okay, that's neat. Yeah. It's neat how that works. But yeah, I mean, that would eliminate that whole thing. I remember you were like banging your head against the wall trying to figure out how to get that to work at one point.
Well, you can't get it to work on with server PSUs. You can only do that on like regular motherboards. So I couldn't get it to work that way with the RevTechs.
Gotcha. That's what it was.
Yeah, I know. We had a customer at one time that got smart PDUs, or essentially it was a smart PDU. It was like a 10 or 12 that had a switch on the back of it, and you can just turn on or off each individual port, you know, based through communication on the switch.
I had one until ComEd like killed it.
The smart PSU will also be open source, so you can integrate it with your systems or run your own if you want.
Yeah,
nice.
Amplifier Gaming, he said, are you able to get some guesstimates on the specs if you go to a lower nanometer? I don't think you're gonna really comment on that too much, right? I mean,
that's what I said. I mean, that's a huge investment. It's about 25 to 30 mil designed to tape out to get your first chip off the line to go down to the 7 or 5 nanometer. But basically, theoretically speaking, and this is what a lot of the other designers have done, and the largest competitors do, is they just take their design down to a lower node. That's how they get the efficiency gain. But it's you basically double the hash rate and half the power consumption. It's kind of
Gotcha. And then the last
25 mil,
question.
25 mil, sorry, 25 mil. Goat's got that in his back pocket. It'll help you out.
Oh yeah, I got you, man.
You got some good 3D printing business.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let's print some more.
It's a banger, and somebody wanted to be even faster. Maybe they pay for it, so then we will get the script chip for free.
There you go.
That's crazy. All right, last question, then we're gonna get out of here. Patrick Murphy said, "Can you briefly describe the terms tap out and mask set, slice, and device?"
Tape out.
Oh, slicing. All right. So when you tape out, that means that you have a completed GDS2 file from the designer. So our design team says, yes, all the testing validation is complete. We are okay with handing this over to the foundry to start the DRC. The DRC, again, is a design rule check that basically comes in a bunch of different waivers. I believe there's 3 waivers. They have critical waivers and they have, waivers that aren't critical. The critical ones you do have to change because they see that as a critical error in your design. And then the regular waivers, you can just pass them off or not. And every chip, not the critical ones, but every chip that goes to DRC basically has a ton of waivers, not wafers, but has a bunch of waivers. And once that happens, that month is complete for your last check before they make the mask set. The mask set is basically a cookie cutter for each and every layer of the silicon. So it just makes sure that you're going to be making a precise silicon for each layer for production. And once you have that mask set, it's a one-off cost. I mean, for us on the 12 nanometer node, you're looking at about $5.5 to $6 million just for the mask set alone to get the first ASIC off the line. And after that, it's how many boats do you want to order? And you do a ramp up because one thing we'll get into is like yield. So when you have those first wafers come off the line, you don't have a 100% yield. Not all the ASICs on a single wafer will be usable. So, say you have like a 70%, that you got 70% that meet the specs. You have probably 20% that meet like kind of like the binning process to where they're a little bit less efficient. And then the last bit is stuff that can't be used. So, that's why you see a bunch of different miners have different ASIC machines or ASIC miners that have different efficiencies at different power levels because they do a binning process that allows them to use all the chips that they're selling rather than just like using the best ones for the best model and then, shipping out the rest or just throwing them away.
Gotcha.
And that actually increases better over time. So typically I would say between 1,000 to 2,000 wafers, then they start tuning in like global tunes in their tooling good enough to where you get that yield process up.
The slicing and dicing also affects the same.
Yeah. So you go to slicing and dicing, packaging. You have the back grinding before the slicing and dicing. Like there's a lot of different things that go on. And I mean, this is just naming the most like critical or important ones, but there's a ton of stuff that goes on during this whole process.
Gotcha. And the software, that's not going to be put out for these units until they actually come out, correct?
That's Christian and Arva. I'm not the
haven't decided yet.
Okay. Haven't decided. Gotcha. Okay. Perfect.
But for sure, whenever we're finished with the design of the board and we have the software for running it, we will send it out to the like NiceHash and the companies that need it. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Guys, Ben, Christian.
One last question that Chuck Danger asked: said, "Why does Christian look like John Travolta?"
I'm not that.
Come on now. Come on. He don't look like John Travolta.
Well, Ben and Christian, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad to clear up a lot of this stuff. Again, if you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments below. I'm sure Ben will be able to go and answer and, give you guys a shout out for whatever you guys have any questions, Geek of all trades, you're awesome. Max Voltage, thank you for joining. And yeah, guys, until next time, we'll see you guys later on tonight. Miss Mining Saturday Night Live. Peace out.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thanks a lot, man.
No
Bye.
worries.